Brooklyn Independent Television.
For many Brooklynites over 21, hot summer calls for cold beer. But as temps continue to rise, so does the price of locally brewed beer. Melissa Rose Cooper tells us how new legislation is causing local breweries to tap your beer budget.
That beer you look forward to slurping down after a long day could soon cost you a bit extra. After more than a decade, the New York State Supreme Court recently put an end to tax and fee exemptions for in-state brewers.
There was no heads up, there was no kind of warning, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and a big chunk of the fees that we're now supposed to pay are retroactive. And that's not particularly fair.
The ruling is a result of a lawsuit from a Massachusetts beer distributor and states that such exemptions are unconstitutional.
Just for my brand, it's going to be about $25,000 a year in extra taxations.
The loss of the tax breaks is especially devastating to Brooklyn, which once ruled the nation's beer industry.
There was a huge German population here that opened many breweries in the 19th century. By 1900, there are 48 breweries in Brooklyn, and as late as 1960, Brooklyn's making 10% of the beer in the United States.
They ask for Rheingold Extra Dry before and after dark.
We had two of the largest breweries in the country right here in Brooklyn, Rheingold and Schaefer.
From Jersey scenes way out to Queens, they sing as millions do.
By the mid-1970s, the older breweries died out.
They didn't have the technology to ship beer across the country. They didn't have refrigeration, they didn't have canning, they didn't have cars or trucks, and so beer was local. And so if you drank beer in Brooklyn in the 1860s and 70s, odds are you drank the beer made in Brooklyn.
KELSO of Brooklyn is one of 3 breweries still existent in the borough. It's already feeling the pain of the tap and adjusted prices to help swallow the extra costs.
It started immediately because the taxes were due actually retroactively to when the decision was made, which was in the end of March, but most brewers didn't hear about it until the middle of April, so we were already 3 weeks behind. I'm going to raise my prices to the distributor. The distributor is going to raise their prices to the bar owner and the retailer. The retailer, of course, at that point is going to raise their prices, so it's just going to kind of be a more expensive beer for everybody.
But this isn't the first time beer has faced taxes.
Beer and taxes go way back. A lot of people don't know this, but the U.S. government for a long time was funded primarily through beer and liquor taxes. They imposed the first taxes on beer and liquor during the Civil War to help the country pay for the war, and there's been beer and taxes on them ever since.
Not only did the new fees cause KELSO's beer to go up, it's also changing its plans to expand.
There was a state excise tax and a city excise tax. So doing business in the city immediately became more expensive than doing business out of the city. I've got expansion plans that I've been planning over the last 2 years that involved growing within New York City. Now I'm kind of stepping back and thinking, well, maybe I should grow just outside of New York City if it's going to save me thousands, tens of thousands of dollars a year in taxes that I didn't have to pay a month ago.
The New York State Brewers Association is urging the state to reconsider the end of the tax exemption. But for now, local breweries will continue to do what they do best: make great beer. For Brooklyn Review, I'm Melissa Rose Cooper.
Watch this and other Brooklyn Independent Television episodes online at breakartsmedia.org/BIT.